This video will contain spoilers for Pixar's Soul. In 3, 2, 1. Fun fact, before making the character Joe very unsuccessful, they were going to make the character Joe very, well, successful, imitating the lifestyle of a very famous musician, which I'm glad they didn't because it would have made the character as unrelatable as, well, Batman, where only people like Bill Gates can understand him at a financial level.
I'm going to have to ask you to leave. It is not a question of money.
You see, I'm buying this hotel and setting some new rules about the pool area.
No, buy the whole block. Haha, billionaire amateurs, am I right? Hello, my name is Ahren Shorts, and on this channel we discuss movies that move me and hope they move you too. Today we are discussing Soul, and wow, this was a good film. I mean, from the animation to the meaning, the message, the cinematic representation of black culture and other non-white cultures as well. I mean, this is Pixar's first black lead character, and right after the 2020's Black Lives Matter protests, I say this is the great way to end the year. But I'm going to be talking a lot more on that later because, well, we have a lot to cover. First, we'll talk about the meaning of the movie, which I found two messages of, and this is also where I'll include my lost soul theory as well. Then I'll move on to the animation, to the cinematics, and then black culture. And basically I'll just talk about how well or, realistic it all was. But before we do that, I have to geek out a little bit about Pixar's history and what led up to creating this story. Now, Pixar is notorious for letting the characters die in the first 10 minutes of the film, and making things that wouldn't actually have a voice. And the story structure of this film was a lot like the vast majority of the other Pixar films we've seen, where the character would think that they want something but realize at the end of the film that they want something else. To me, it just feels like they put Inside Out, Coco, Up, and Toy Story, threw it in a pot, and mixed it all together. And it was great. But even though this film was familiar, it was still new and refreshing. And that's where the meaning comes in. Soul searching. I know they talked a lot in the trailer about what you want to be remembered for, but I didn't really get that vibe when I was watching the movie. Honestly, I feel like that trailer was one of those fake trailers they give out, like Avengers Infinity War, and how they said Hulk was going to be out and fighting and stuff, but, expectations, reality, completely different. Anyway, the reason why I think the meaning was soul searching is because, well, Pete Docter was soul searching himself when he was writing the film.
And then after Inside Out, I was like, this is probably as good as it gets. I can't imagine doing anything that would supersede that in terms of audience appreciation and box office and critical acclaim. And then I was like, now what? Do I just go back and do it again, or is there something that maybe I'm missing? Because I still don't feel like it fixed everything and made me all whole or whatever.
Anyway, the meaning of the film really made its punch at the end of the film when the character got what he wanted. The idea of, do we eat, sleep, and drink our passions to get into a certain level of success just to do that for the rest of our lives over and over and over again until we, yeah. And I'm soul searching just thinking about it. Seriously though, there was a lot of life lessons here, and one of my favorites were the barber scene actually.
I don't know about this crazy cat guy thing, man, but it is nice to finally talk to you about something other than jazz, yo.
Huh. How come we never talked about your life before?
You never asked. Well, I'm glad you did this time.
I'll grab a couple road lawns.
That right there was a punch to the face. Mostly because I've been in the same situation before where I would only talk about either filmmaking or Hamilton. Let me know in the comments if I'm the only one. But I was lost. And that's where my theory comes into play. Because I believe that Joe was also, at one point in time, a lost soul. You see, we get told that in the movie that if you get into the zone, you can also become a lost soul.
Lost souls are not that different from those in the zone.
What?
The zone is enjoyable, but when that joy becomes an obsession, one becomes disconnected from life.
And yes, the only way to do that is if you, were never enjoying life. And it looks like in the hall, Joe never really enjoyed his life. I mean, he kind of said it himself when he was talking to his mother.
I'm
Just afraid that if I died today, that my life would have amounted to nothing.
But you see, at that scene, he was still soul searching, and he thought that he could find his soul in a gig, but we both know that wasn't it.
So, what happens next?
We come back tomorrow night and do it all again.
And until he realized that what he needed was some plain old living, well, his soul was lost. If you also believe that Joe could have been a lost soul, let me know in the comments down below. And now on to the second message. And I know, you want me to get into the animation and the cinematics of the film, but just hold on, because I think this one you may or may not have caught. The reason that you may not have got is because unless you're a Pixar fan like me, you probably wouldn't have realized that there is a, well, ever-going theme that Pixar has. The second message to me is that adults should enjoy life a little bit more like kids. Just hear me out. Pixar's always had that reoccurring message. Somehow, in some way, the character's motives is driven by or affected by a kid. If not, the character is a kid.
Wait, Ahren, don't tell me. I know who the kid is. All right, play back the tape. There, stop. Yeah, it's gotta be her. I figured it out. Don't worry, I got you.
Thank you, subscriber Jacob, but even though I admire your problem-solving skills, I gotta say this one's going to be a little different. You see, the kid doesn't actually have to be a kid. It just has to be what a kid represents. A childlike way of living. How did I come up with that conclusion, you might ask? You see, you gotta ask yourself, what is 22's purpose in the story? I mean, 22 isn't a soul that can just tell Joe everything he needs to know about life and what he needs to learn. It's actually the opposite. She's an unborn soul. Okay, so she acts childish, but that doesn't mean that's what she represents. Okay, well, check this then. When 22 is nervous, she asks the barber for a candy. And if that doesn't convince you enough, there's a literal note that says, "For kids." Do you really think it was a coincidence that Pixar went through the effort to animate that in there?
Coincidence? I think not.
Okay, thanks for having my back, but you didn't have to yell at them. Anyway, 22 acts in a way that a child would in any given situation. Not worried about what the public would think about her, being amazed at the smallest things at life, and just plain not afraid to stop to think about, well, life. Now, that was a lot of meaning, so let's move on to the animation, shall we? Quick question, when you're watching the film and you guys saw this, were you reminded of anything? Because when I saw it, I was reminded of this painting, the painting of Picasso. Did I say that right? Was it their inspiration? I don't know, but I still think it was a great way for them to make something look a lot less human than the actual souls, but still recognizable and familiar nonetheless. Not to mention their animation had a great amount of detail, and you know, it's Pixar, so yeah, they do that. Okay, now fasten your seatbelts, everyone. We're on to the cinematic bus. The cinematic bus? What? Guys, come on, who writes this stuff? Oh yeah, right, me. It's now the cinematic part. I'm going to be talking to you guys about the cinematography of the film. Now, even though I haven't made any feature-length films yet, I've been making short films for the past 3 years now, and while I was an intern, I was taught the fundamental rule of the 180 degree. This is really important, so let me explain for the people that don't understand. It just means that if you put the camera on one side of the 180 to show a character talking, the next shot will be on the same side of the 180 to show the other character talking. This way, the audience knows where the characters are in relations to each other. Now I understand the filmmakers out there watching telling me that there are exceptions to the rule, and I just want to congratulate you for paying attention in film class, because that's exactly what I want to talk about. Pixar is the exception. So yes, if you know how to use the 180 degree rule well enough, you can break it for your cinematic advantage. And let me tell you, they did just that. You see, when Joe starts to talk to his mother, we understand that it's actually 22 talking for Joe. I mean, it even sounds like 22.
Fine, we'll get the suit off the rack somewhere. My mom has never understood what I'm trying to do with my life.
Fine, we'll get a suit off the rack somewhere. My mom has never understood what I'm trying to do with my life.
22!
What did you just say?
Ooh, can I run away now like you usually do?
But when we cross over to the other side of the 180, we no longer hear 22. We hear what his mother hears. We hear Joe.
No, not this time. Repeat after me. Mom, I know we've had some rough times, but you're right. I can't be truthful with you because it seems like no matter what I do, you disapprove.
And that was just so cinematically effective, but I'm actually not done with that scene. And for this, I have to give credit to the lighting directors.
Mounted to nothing.
Joey.
As soon as the mother starts to understand Joe, the light changes color. Like just what? Now, you may not recognize this as genius, but at least to the filmmakers out there, you gotta ask yourself the question, would you have thought to do that? Now, my thoughts on black representation. And I'll open it up with the question, how can I be anything else but impressed? I mean, they actually had black people playing black people. Ahren, why was that impressive? Okay, I know it sounds crazy, but do you guys remember The Princess and the Frog? I mean, I still don't know why Disney decided to cast a white Brazilian guy to play one of the main black dudes. I mean, the character may not have been fully black, but he still wasn't white, and Pixar took note of this. They saw the mistake, they fixed it, and I thank you. I mean, they actually had black representatives help Pete and his team understand black culture, which really helped out with the black vernacular. Which, if you don't understand, it just means the black American accent. But just so many black people in the room where it happens, and I'm just so glad. And oh yeah, for you Hamilton fans out there, David Diggs was in Soul. I mean, just the way that black people interacted on Soul was on point. From the aunties to the barbershop scenes, everything just made sense. I mean, it is true that in the black community we have aunt and uncles that aren't really blood related in any way, but yet still have that title. And in the barbershop scenes, I felt like I was watching an animated version of the Barbershop, the movie, where I feel like there are conversations that I've either had or have heard someone say in the barbershop.
Hey, Joe, you didn't call for an appointment, man. Oh, my Lord, this is an emergency.
Oh, and you may not be thinking that the stuff that I'm pointing out is really big, but that's what matters. The little stuff. It's the small stuff that counts. And to that, Pixar, I say thank you. Hey guys, I hope that this movie has moved you guys as much as it moved me. And I hope that maybe you find yourself wondering whether or not your soul is lost. And maybe the answer to that is that you just need to go out and live a little bit more. Hey, maybe the next time you see this movie, you'll find yourself in Joe and you learn from him. And you learn from 22. And best of all, let movies move you.